Why is the Pentagon rushing to move a slow, floating city halfway across the world at a burn rate of millions per day? In an era of stealth bombers that can strike anywhere on Earth in hours, why do we still rely on these massive assets? Moving a U.S. supercarrier from the South China Sea to the Persian Gulf isn't just a road trip. It is a logistical nightmare. We're talking about a massive operation that burns through more than $6.5 million every single day. But here is why they do it. A bomber strikes and leaves, but a carrier strike group stays. It parks 70 fighter jets off the coast of an adversary and leaves them there. It creates a no-fly zone that a bomber simply cannot maintain. But how exactly do U.S. attack operations and logistical support actually work? Part 1. The naval pivot. The chess pieces are moving. We are tracking the largest naval redistribution since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The Pentagon is emptying the Pacific to flood the Persian Gulf. But where are all the U.S. nuclear carriers stationed when not at war? And how many will travel to Iran and the Middle East? On paper, the number is 11 nuclear-powered supercarriers, divided into two distinct classes. First, the Nimitz class. These are the 10 workhorses of the fleet commissioned between 1975 and 2009. Second, the Ford class. Right now, there is only one, the USS Gerald R. Ford. This new generation uses electromagnetic catapults to launch jets faster. Well, let's look at this scenario: what happened when the Department of War gives a green signal. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is typically stationed in the South China Sea to deter Chinese vessels. However, upon receiving flash priority orders, it can sprint to the Middle East in just a week. It has to transit the Malacca Strait, the choke point between Malaysia and Indonesia. Meanwhile, the U.S. can launch another nuclear aircraft carrier. The USS George H.W. Bush will depart from Norfolk, Virginia, likely crossing the Atlantic to enter the Mediterranean. This leaves the Pacific dangerously thin, with only the USS Ronald Reagan or its replacement, the George Washington, potentially available in Japan. The plan is to have two full strike groups off the coast of Iran within 10 days to form a pincer deterrent.
Posture and silent positioning of forces that the public never fully understands until it's too late. Today, the United States has deployed an aircraft carrier strike group, including the massive USS Abraham Lincoln, toward the Middle East, a region already simmering with tension. Officials call it a demonstration of strength and preparedness. But for military analysts, this movement is being watched as a signal, a possible prelude to direct conflict with Iran. This is not ordinary military movement. This is a major power forcing strategic visibility without public announcement. And this changes everything. Because when an aircraft carrier, the centerpiece of U.S. naval power, is moved into position, it does not go unnoticed in intelligence circles. It means options are being readied, strategies are being calibrated, and a list of scenarios that most civilians cannot imagine is being discussed behind closed doors. An aircraft carrier is not just a ship. It is a naval airbase at sea, carrying fighter jets, bombers, surveillance aircraft, refueling tankers, drones, and cruise missiles. A single carrier strike group can project power hundreds of miles inland without warning. Its aircraft can strike air defenses, logistics hubs, command centers, and strategic installations long before ground forces even arrive. And right now, a U.S. carrier group approaching Iran is being described by some officials in Washington, not as a threat, but as a warning. In ancient wars, declarations were ritualistic, formal, and public. By World War II, mobilization was a public affair, with nations broadcasting their intentions. But modern war doctrine, the kind that involves superpowers, is different. Today's war begins with positioning, not proclamation. It begins with reconnaissance, with optics, with moves that signal resolve, not just readiness. This is why nations do not declare, they posture. They show strength to deter, but the very move can be misread as intent. And this ambiguity is exactly what makes the situation around Iran and the U.S. so dangerous. The reported deployment to the Middle East involves the aircraft carrier, USS Abraham Lincoln, and several support destroyers and jets, including F-35s and F-A-18 fighter aircraft. This group is among the most advanced power projection tools the U.S. Navy fields. Normally, such deployments are routine exercises or deterrent postures. But in the context of rising tensions with Iran over internal protests, human rights issues, and geopolitical rivalry, it is anything but routine. Iranian officials have already warned that any direct attack will be treated as all-out war.
Listen, on ready! Reload!